Hi everybody, welcome to episode 3 of this series on predetermined tracks. This time we're going to learn how to do predetermined tracks using a standard VOR indicator. So hopefully you saw part 1 and part 2. In part 1 we learned how to do predetermined tracks using an RMI. In part 2 we learned how to do it using an HSI, so I'm going to assume that you're familiar with all the information in part 1 and part 2. We're using here the same piece of software that you saw used in part 1 and part 2. With just a simple push of the button we can change the configuration of this software. You saw it last time with the HSI like so, and the time before that with the RMI, and this time we're seeing it with a standard VOR indicator. Now over here in the red box is our clearance, so our call sign is pilot 200. And we've been cleared to intercept the 040 degree radial inbound to the Yankee Papa Bravo VOR. So here's the VOR, here's the 040 degree radial, and we have to intercept it inbound. So you remember last time we learned that you need to set an inbound course of 220 degrees. In other words, the reciprocal of 040 degrees. Now we don't have an HSI, but we do have an OBS here, so I've actually already got it set to 220, but let me just reset that for you there, 220 degrees inbound. Now if we had an RMI, we'd be glancing now at the RMI to see where the head of the needle is, but we don't have an RMI. But here's a little tip for you. Once you set your OBS to the desired track, the CDI needle here deflects to the left. So we know that the bearing to the station is one of these numbers over here to the left side of 220. And so we need to figure out what it is by just turning the OBS in that direction until it centers. So there, see, it centers on about, we could call that 190, close enough. Okay, so that is essentially where your head is. So here's how you do the inbound intercept. We have the same saying that we saw last time for inbounds, the desired to the head plus 30. So I locate my desired, which is 220 here on my heading indicator. So put my finger on 220, my mouse is on 220. Then I move to the head, which is right here at 190, and then I just go another 30 degrees. So it's 180, 170, 160. So 160, that's the heading I need to turn to. So we'll turn time on here and start a turn to a heading of 160, and it's really just as simple as that. Now I do have to remember to reset my OBS back where it belongs now, oops, to 220. Okay, and this will bring us around. Let me just speed up time a little bit here in the interest of saving time. And you'll see here that we're coming around to make the intercept. Okay, so it's really the same process as before, desired to the head plus 30. And so even though we don't have a head, what we're saying is the equivalent of the head is just centering up the OBS with a 2 indication. So we're heading on down now, and as we get closer, we see the CDI comes live. And as it comes in, about here, we'll just turn to a heading of 220, and we'll be on track. So there we are, established on the track. Okay, that was pretty easy. Let's do another one. So we click do another. This time the computer would like us to intercept the 066 degree radial inbound. So remember, just like with the HSI, we need to take the reciprocal. So the reciprocal here is going to be 246. So I'm just going to set my OBS to 246. Okay, now I need to know where the head is. Now this time the needle's deflected to the right, so I know it's one of these numbers over here. To find out exactly which one, I just turn the OBS a little more in that direction until it centers. So see, it centers there at about 287. Okay, so that's effectively where the head is. If I had an RMI needle, say if this was an RMI, the needle would be pointing to 287, which is, well, as it turns out, just a little bit to the right of my nose. So the process, remember again, desired to the head plus 30. So my desired is 246. I put my finger on 246. I go to my head, which is over here at 285, and then I go another 30 degrees, 10, 20, 30, so it's going to be right around here, call it 315. So we'll just turn to a heading of 315, and that should do the job for us. And you can see here on the moving map that that obviously is doing the job, and here we come to intercept the course. Okay, I don't think I'll even bother to do that. Let me do the one thing I should do though, which is reset this here to 246. Try to be accurate. That's 245, 246. So as we come in, I'll just speed it up here, show you, see if I bring it in, you can see that brings us on track. Okay, so let me do another one for you, but this time I'm going to come down here and hide the map, make it a little bit more challenging for us. Now we click do another, and this time the computer would like us to intercept the 023 degree radial inbound. So what do I have to set on my OBS? I need to take the reciprocal of 023, which is going to be 203. So I'm going to set my OBS here to 203, right about there. And this time I notice the needle's going to the left, so I know my head is somewhere over here on the left side of the needle. So I'll turn the OBS in that direction. Oh, there it is, about 193 or so. Right? So now I come up here and I say my desired is right here, 203. And I go to my head, which is here at about 193, at about there actually. And then I go another 30 degrees, so that'd be 183, 173, 163. So I'm just going to turn to a heading of 163. And we'll start the airplane turning, and that should do the trick. And now I need to reset my OBS. What do I set it to? The reciprocal of 023 or 203. So I'll reset that to 203 like so. Let me show the diagram now so you can see we have indeed turned around and we're on a good intercept heading. Okay, so it's pretty easy. A little bit more mental imagination required since you don't actually have an RMI needle to point at the station for you, but you kind of construct the equivalent of an RMI needle by centering up the CDI here with a 2 indication. Okay. So let's now try an outbound intercept. So we come down here to the bottom, we turn off inbound intercepts here, and we turn on outbound intercepts, and we click do another. Okay, so the random number generator is giving us one here where we're almost right on track. What I can do is actually just kind of move it a little bit off track just to make this work. Okay, so outbound intercepts. Remember the saying that we're working with is from the tail to the desired plus 30. So it's different than the inbounds. What is our desired? So in this case, we've been asked to intercept a 206 degree radial outbound. Remember from last time with the HSI, when you're dealing with outbounds, no reciprocals. So this time I actually want to put 206 into my OBS. So it was almost there anyway, so there we go, 206. Now, outbound intercepts are really trivial because if you think about it, we know we're over here on one of these radials, but we're just going to go from the desired to the head plus 30. So we're just going to turn 30 degrees here, which will be over here to a heading of 236. It's really just as simple as that for outbound intercepts. So we're always doing a 30 degree intercept outbound. If we want to know where the tail of the needle is, we'd actually have to turn it over here, see, and you could find out that the current radial you're on is about 188. But that's actually technically a redundant step to do that. All you have to do is turn towards the CDI by 30 degrees. Okay, so you can see here that we're coming on track, so that was pretty darn easy. Let me do another one here so that you can really see this. So we click do another, and we've been asked to intercept the 076 degree radial outbound. So all we have to do is select 076, and so there we go, there is 076. The needle goes to the left, so I need to come over here to the left to 046. If the needle had gone to the right, that would mean that I was up on this side. See, that puts the needle to the right. Then we would go to 106. Those are really the only two options on the table. Right? If we're trying to do an outbound intercept and we're going to intercept at 30 degrees, if we're trying to intercept 076, we're either going to fly a heading of 046 or we're going to fly a heading of 106. The needle simply tells you which one of those two options is correct. Needle goes to the left, choose the smaller option. Needle goes to the right, choose the bigger option. Let's do another one just so that you can see that really clearly. So we click do another. We're supposed to intercept the 269 degree radial, so we set the OBS to 269. Okay, so there's 269. Needle goes to the left, so we're going to turn to 239. So if I turn to 239, right there, we can see that that's obviously correct, and we're coming back on track. Now, had we been over here instead, then the needle went to the right, so we would turn to 299. So if I turn here to 299, and you can see that that is correct. So outbound intercepts with the standard VOR indicator, piece of cake. I pointed out last time you can do it the same way with an HSI, but if you have an RMI, I recommend looking at it. If you don't have an RMI, can't really look at it, no real need to worry about looking at it. Just do it like this. Okay, so outbound intercepts really easy. Inbound intercepts not all that hard. So that's about it for episode 3. See you next time for episode 4, where we're going to do what many people say is the most difficult thing of all, which is predetermined tracks with a fixed card ADF.